took us over the 7 o'clock at night to midnight skip. That was bad.
The attorney's not on here anymore.
No one ever visits us anymore.
Make it easy. Yeah, that's right.
Kind of hard to read those plans.
Joe comes.
Okay, you're back on. I'm gonna try it again and see what happens. Right.
Okay. Karen, can you, oh, shoot. You're not gonna. Can you hear me through your computer?
No, I hear you through the phone. I have logged off the meeting on the computer.
Okay, okay, that's great. We're just making sure we don't have the echo thing.
Around, yeah, so she hears something.
Well, maybe here.
Fog.
No, that's.
Yeah, I have the volume turned up all the way. And yeah, hopefully that'll help. And I'll use this. Okay. Okay. So we have Mark Masiello, plat 15, lot 132, fire number 997 Old Dunn Road, 1-year extension of the zoning decision dated July 28th, 2022 for an application for a variance from section 306C to demolish an existing single-family dwelling and 2 sheds, construct a single-family dwelling, accessory residential structure, and 3 accessory structures. Hi.
Mr. Master, I was here to have these questions, but he's essentially working through trying to get the plan put together, and there's enormous inflation that he had to do with it. He's put it off. Now it's coming down and he's getting ready to move forward, but he couldn't get it done within a year. The decision was recorded on the 2nd. We filed for the extension on June 24th, but asked for a 1-year extension from today and not from August 2nd.
I don't have any issue with that, as long as we have the tool to do that. And that was a question of whether or not. Karen,
I'm here.
okay, so we've always granted extensions to, to variances over the years, just, at some point when we did during the economic crisis, we didn't have to, they were automatically granted.
Right, they were told.
Yeah, but we've always just, heard them and just said, we grant the extension, and are we still able to do that? Is that legislation, or is there still the ability to do that? We wanted to make sure.
Well, I think that the first question I have is to Joe. Joe, what authority are you looking at for the granting of the 1-year extension?
The board has always granted an extension if they filed prior to the expiration date. They've just routinely done that under their general authority.
Okay, so generally speaking, I've seen it several times where as long as you file before the expiration date on a major land development type of application, yes, they're granted. I don't know that I've seen any statutory authority for granting an extension of a variance. However, if that is the way you interpret your ordinance, I would advise that at a minimum, you will need to make sure that the applicant provides the reason for the extension, which it sounds like Joe.
He has,
did.
yeah.
And then you also would need to demonstrate that there's no change in circumstances. And I would also want to make sure that notice was provided to the abutters. In the alternative, if you decide that there is no ordinance or statutory authority to grant an extension to a variance, the other option would be that the applicant has to file a new application.
And I would say there's no change in the zoning ordinance, no change in the neighborhood since we filed the application, since the application was approved.
Okay,
And we've notified all abutters the last month after this
okay,
and spoken to most.
okay.
I have a quick question. How can we give an extension 1 month and then not do it the next?
Because it's within the time frame.
That's because the zoning approval is still valid. It wouldn't be valid, it would have expired, so.
Okay, but we did it, we already gave what extension?
No.
Oh, yeah.
No, because it went to the court.
2022 was when it would have expired 23. We applied for the extension on June 24th, 2023, over a month before it expired.
Okay, so
That was on the second, that's when.
change of certain, Mark, no, you're not, don't testify, you're not, you're not sworn in. No change of circumstance, everything's the same.
No change in the ordinance, no change in the neighborhood, no change in plans.
Okay. Any more questions?
Karen, I'd like to add that every municipality that I've dealt with over the years is always, just as a matter of course, given extensions on zoning. And I might mention right now that I think some of the problem, especially out here, is if you're looking for a builder, to get a builder that can commit 6 months or a year or whatever, okay? I'd make a suggestion, if everybody's for it, that if you anticipate at all that this might not take place within a year, to ask for a 2-year extension.
And I know that I've been doing this before you guys for 40 years, and I've seen extensions for 2, sometimes as long as 3. Eventually, with other people, don't come back to us for another one, but that's been routinely done.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I quite frankly kind of have a problem with extensions in the sense that if it was built, it's there forever. Okay, so why does it expire to begin with?
Mm.
You know, I mean, I could see some expiration, 5 years or whatever, but if you built it or if you did a permitted thing by digging a foundation and having an inspection, that would toll it through.
Right.
I'm not certain, but I think you could recommend that to your planning, that you amend your ordinance. I don't think there's anything in the statute
There isn't.
that.
Right.
Allowing that.
I mean, I personally, we pulled my file for my house this morning because we had to file probably 4 extensions. It took us so long to build it, but
And that was what total was about.
yeah, and it was pre to the tolling thing, but Jen and I looked that up and.
So are you suggesting that instead of 1, we go ahead and make it 2?
I would in this particular case, and I think we should.
I have no problem with that.
Well, first you're gonna have to close the public hearing.
We're gonna have to, okay, so if it's a public hearing,
You're
if-
in a public hearing right now.
I know,
I'm assuming
I'm
you opened it,
gonna
right?
talk to the public. This is a public hearing. If anybody in the public has any questions or comments, now is the time to speak. Okay, so I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye, okay. I'll make a motion to extend the variance zoning approval for the variance from section 306C for Mark Marcello, plat 15, lot 132. I'll make a motion to extend it for 2 years from today, right? Maybe is that right? It'll be from today and not,
Thank you.
Well, from the date of the recorded decision.
from the date of the recorded decision, from July 28th, 2022.
Recorded decision. Oh,
This
this.
decision, because this will get recorded.
From-
It was dated July, when it was reported on the second.
Okay,
So,
so what's the date?
the date would be 2 years from the date.
Date of
this recorded.
This recorded.
This decision gets recorded. Okay,
From this one, from this isn't CD, perfect. Yes.
Even better.
right.
Right, that makes more
Okay.
sense than trying.
Motion is made. Any
Second.
more discussion? All in favor?
Uh,
Aye, great. Okay, thank you.
very much.
Thanks. You're welcome. Okay. All right, so the next hearing is Block Island Housing Board, plat 18, lot 2-3, West Side Road. Application for a special use permit under 405. Affordable housing for construction of 8 duplex structures, creating a total of 16 rental units restricted to year-round residents. Cindy, you're going to want to get sworn in.
That's Karen or Sally.
Karen, can you swear Cindy Pappison, please?
Yes, this is, I apologize, this is weird.
Well, if maybe ask her to try to log back on.
Try logging back in.
Cause it, see, there's no feedback right now.
We don't have any feedback, so see if you can,
Okay, I will do that while I'm swearing in. Could you please state your name for the record?
state your name for the record.
Cynthia Pappas.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the course of this hearing?
I do.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So thank you for patiently waiting for us to come before you again. At this point, the last time we saw you, we still had a few things to get in order. And as the process went on, a few more things came along the road, most notably when we went to get our DOT permit for the road cut, they informed us that we needed an archaeological dig. So we have completed the archaeological dig. Thankfully, no interesting artifacts were found. So we are in the clear on that. I believe there's still a little bit of paperwork that has to be going back and forth along those lines. But I believe at this juncture, our plans are fully developed. We have addressed all of the issues that the town engineer had requested us to address. And we are looking for your approval for the building of 8 duplexes for a total of 16 two-bedroom rental units that will be designated as affordable year-round dwellings. We have with us today our engineer who is much more capable of explaining any questions you might have about the drawings. And
Okay, so we're gonna probably want to submit items for exhibits.
okay,
So that
First, do
we,
you wanna see if you can see, talk to?
Karen, can you hear us or can we hear you?
So,
Oh, she's connected. Okay, can you hear us?
Yes, hold on, I just don't know on which end I'm hearing you. It's the phone or or the thing, but I do absolutely hear you.
Yeah, she's still on the phone.
no.
So I can
I
hear,
can hear you through the computer.
We can't hear you.
okay, so I'm just going to leave the video up and mute.
Okay,
And I'll just use your phone as the.
okay, that's great. Okay, so you're gonna want to submit exhibits, site plan, building plans, those type of things. I'll take them in the order that you want to give them to us. We can kind of, how do you want to proceed?
okay. You already have them. I don't have extra copies
Okay,
to give you.
Okay, all right.
So,
So the one on top is the new.
So this is exhibit 1 is the New Shore and Ball O'Brien property. It's this packet, everything is just the site plan. It's just site plan and engineering
yeah, look at that.
drainage. Yeah.
Yes, this is the engineering work from GM2.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So exhibit 1 is in engineering plans and site plan. And it's 10 pages. Your company's GM2?
Yes.
Okay, by GM2. Okay. Exhibit 2 is, and make sure I'm asking if this is the most up to date. Are the building plans consisting of so oddly numbered, so they're confusing numbers. I have to count, sorry. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pages. And they're by Bester Architecture. And they're dated. Date on here?
Yeah.
Might be on the first page.
1/10/23.
1/10/23. Okay. Exhibit 2.
We have 9/12/23.
So all right, so,
We don't have.
We don't have.
it's January, unless it's in here, let me just look and make sure we don't, this is January and January.
No, that's new.
Yeah, we don't, it's ours looks like that.
Okay. This was the latest one. I thought I sent them to you.
No, this is all I reviewed,
Okay. So this would be,
right? This is September 2023. This is what you submitted.
mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, but this
This
has
would be
the
the
building.
drawings.
Okay, so this is
Correct.
the drawing, so
Yes.
I stand corrected,
So those are
Exhibit-
not on clerk base and they haven't been distributed any,
so we haven't seen these.
unless they're similar, but no.
There might be a couple of tweaks, but it's.
Is it like more like
same.
part of the engineering that's?
Well,
You
let's
you
put it
can't,
this
you can't
way,
speak
the-
until you're sworn in.
The siding is the same. The layout is the same, so the design has not changed. The size of the building hasn't changed. The date changed. Well, we were fooling around with the ADA units. But again, the same site
It
plan,
looks the same, it's
yeah, it's
just,
all the same.
okay. Well, then I'm
So,
okay, if you guys are okay with that,
yeah.
I'm okay with,
Just keep in mind, that's not, those plans were not reviewed by the planning board, so we're working off,
okay,
like that, this is what they're.
that's what we're, so
Yeah.
that is what we have to accept as the exhibit, or we accept that as the exhibit?
Ask Karen.
Karen,
Again, the plan, from what the planning board received, it's the exact same site plan, the exact same placement of the buildings, the size of the buildings. They didn't care about setbacks, but the setbacks are the same, because we're not asking for any variances.
Right.
Right,
Karen, so I don't know if you're following that, but the plans, the most up-to-date plans did not get reviewed by planning, but they're pretty similar as far as the ADA units are the ones that have, or were they, was it where the placement, where they were placed, or?
Well, we were talking about, same building, first floor, 2 first floor units. And we were talking about interior floor plan changes, but
Nothing on the exterior.
no.
So is it okay for us to accept as an exhibit the latest ones, or do we need to stick to the ones that are
this is what you should.
what the planning board reviewed? Or do we, and mark both? Just so that,
Yeah, I would mark both so that it's clear for the record that
okay,
a plan was reviewed by planning
yeah,
and mark that as exhibit. And then a new plan has been submitted and mark that.
okay, okay. So exhibit 2 will be the plans from January that were reviewed by planning. Exhibit 3 are Block Island Housing Appendix B dated 9/12/23. And these are plans that were not reviewed by planning
Or they're not on clerk base.
or and then not on clerk
They're
base.
submitted right now.
They're being submitted for the first time this evening. Nice. Okay.
Chris has some markings on those pages, just
Okay,
because it was.
So if we
copied,
could-
But we have electronically that should have gone to Jen, so I don't know.
It was just this is what Keisha,
Yeah,
sent
she
me.
must have
She
missed
printed
the,
this and brought it into my
Yeah.
office and then.
she must have missed the Bester one.
Yeah, I didn't see,
Yeah.
right, you didn't get any plans from Bester
No.
on Monday,
no,
just this. one.
yeah,
Sorry about that.
Okay, so we'll
I have to
keep,
keep these.
we have other things in here that we can exhibit as you go everything through it, but why don't you tell us what you're doing? I mean, we kind of know what you're doing, but
Yeah, so to,
nobody out there does.
okay, so to recap, we have submitted plans for 8 duplex buildings for a total of 16 two-bedroom units. Of those 16, 2 of the units will be first floor ADA compliant dwellings. We have received preliminary, we received approval from the planning board. What do you call it? Review?
Advisory.
Advisory opinion.
Right, yeah,
Positive advisory opinion from the planning board as well as the Conservation Commission. You are our final stop. We are not requesting any variances whatsoever in terms of the lot coverage. We're well under. We are not requiring any variances or from setbacks. We have setbacks all squared away. The town engineer, working closely in conjunction with GM2, I believe, has been satisfied on all of the engineering drawings. So our,
that's what we got.
Yeah, well, Jim hasn't reviewed.
Oh, Jim hasn't reviewed the latest. Okay.
But if they're substantially the same, then.
The project, of course, is dependent upon funding from Rhode Island Housing. So our goal was to get all approvals in place. Zoning approval being the final one, which would demonstrate to Rhode Island Housing that in fact we are shovel ready. We have submitted one application that was rejected primarily because we weren't completely through the process. We anticipate that Rhode Island Housing is going to be setting up their second round of funding. Probably the applications will be end of this month through mid-October, somewhere around there. So our goal is to get our application into Rhode Island Housing as quickly as the second round of funding is announced.
Question, so the designated parking areas for each unit are just shown by the gravel parking areas, and out front will just be in front of each unit?
Yes, they will not be, they will be gravel, not paved.
And the road
Try and keep-
is the road gravel as well?
Yes, I believe there's an apron, paved
Yeah,
apron onto West Side Road. Jim Jeremiah just increased that, I think, to 20 feet, which should show on those plans. And other than that, we're trying to use permeable surfaces throughout the project.
and what about like water you want to speak about the water basins and catch basins? Yeah.
That would be.
Yeah, so
that
now
would
you
be-
now you get to get sworn in.
Okay. Brett Nealon, NEILAN of GM2 Inc., 200 Main Street, Pawtucket, Rhode Island.
Karen?
Good evening. Could you raise your right hand? Thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the course of this hearing?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, so the stormwater, we did require a DM permit for the project as it was over an acre of disturbance. So the biggest constraint being high water table and poor soils. So what we ended up doing is there.
welcome to Block Island.
Great to be here. As you can see on sheet C5, we have 2 basins, both on the surface. They're going to be shallow depressions to receive surface runoff and runoff from the roofs.
Yeah.
Yes, right where you're pointing.
So-
Yes,
To that's the northwest,
northeast and northwest.
northeast and northwest corners. Correct. The stenographer does not understand where you're pointing and.
That's fair, yeah. So the northeast corner is gonna receive the majority of the runoff. You can see that area is shaded, or the northeast corner is shaded on the plans. That's receiving the water for treatment. for DEM. So that actually has about 18 inches of sand, which the water will filter through for the treatment. The one on the northwest is actually just to retain the water, so that way we're not increasing the flows from the property to the roadway. So overall, the entire project is not increasing the volume or the peak flows offsite.
Zero net runoff.
Negative impact. It's not net zero runoff because technically it does, once it fills to a certain volume, it will overtop, but it's not negative. It doesn't hurt the area.
Will there be any sort of catch, I didn't see it on the plan, any sort of catch basin or anything on, by the apron going into the project? Currently, a lot of the water runs down that property and saturates and fills the side of the road with water.
No,
Didn't know if, I was noticing the elevations there was no rise in elevations at the apron, it decreased by 1 foot there.
and yeah, when you're talking about the apron, you're talking about from West Side Road coming into the property, correct? Okay. So as Cindy mentioned, that is going to be paved, asphalt paved 1 foot into the property line. That's to meet DOT requirements. At that point, it's gravel. Shown on C5 again, the contours are pitched, so the runoff should be directed to that basin, other than once you hit in the area of that apron. So the runoff to the roadway is again reduced from current.
It's going to that catch basin, but at the actual apron, there's nothing preventing the water from running down the apron.
Correct. There's technically not, but it is still, if you're looking at the parcel from a whole as existing conditions versus what we're doing now, it's a lesser area. So we are reducing the volume to that location.
What happens on maintenance on these items, like on these basins?
There is, as part of the DEM permit application, there's a long-term operation and maintenance plan that outlines the yearly protocols. It's a lot of visual inspection and to clean up any debris that may enter the location. But it's generally done on visual inspection. That's the biggest benefit of doing something on the surface. And it reduces the overall maintenance cost in the long term.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have any questions? Is there anything else? I'm not seeing, I mean, I know the,
Oh, you have a planning board?
yeah, no, I know that the catch basins are always the biggest issue with it.
Yeah, so
project, so it's-
I agree. The rainwater is usually what controls. So since the planning board, I would mention, when we went to the planning board, we did not have water approval, sewer approval, or DOT and the road cut opening. The last two are in the works still due to the archaeological, but we do have water and sewer approval through the town.
Can you, so you have sewer and water allocation approval?
Yes,
You'd have DEM approval. all right?
yes,
You got your piece.
yes.
What's a rip key?
The sewer and the water application,
The drainage plan and the approval for that.
how many people?
It's based on bedrooms, so each unit is 2 bedrooms.
So based on bedrooms.
It technically, I believe the way the town ordinance works is, and I don't want to speak out of turn here, I believe it's 115 gallons per bedroom per day is how it's calculated. So it's per bedroom.
And this is under the assumption that it's 4 people in a 2-bedroom.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of a worst case scenario.
Right. Okay. Any other questions for the engineer? Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. There is a advisory from the planning board. They voted 5-0. Send a favorable advisory to the zoning board of review. And I'll just skip to the chase on this. And you guys have read it, but the planning board makes this favorable advisory on the following conditions. The affordable housing units are to be duly deed restricted as to remain permanently affordable to the extent permitted by applicable law, but no less in no event less than 99 years, including the suitable mechanism for monitoring the long-term affordability of the units. And the final plans must adequately address the comments in a letter dated May 2nd, 2023 by town engineer Jim Jeremiah. Prior to the issuance of a building permit, the plans must be reviewed by the town engineer and receive his positive findings. The comments were adequately addressed and the plans meet local and state requirements for stormwater management, roadways and utilities.
And they've been working back and forth.
Right.
So,
Can we mark that as 4?
Sure.
And we should do the stormwater management. Has this changed since March? No. Or April?
And that looks like it's the narrative. What's the title on that? You may have the,
Yeah, stormwater management plan.
yeah, so that goes into all the findings and the numbers.
It's only a couple pages, is that right?
Oh, it's just your, it's just
I
the,
just want to make sure we're marking everything.
it's, no, it's actually, you know what I'm looking at, there's nothing with it. There's the letter from Jeremiah.
Oh, that might have been like the correspondence kind of.
Okay.
For this in the, or that's all, probably.
Let's make sure that we're not missing something to mark. This is the existing, yeah, existing. We have a March 15th letter from the DEM.
That's 50.
Oh, gotcha. Can't read these letters like on the fly. What's it say?
That's the approval letter, I believe, from DEM.
Oh,
for-
okay, so yeah.
for the reviews.
Well, I have a letter, March 15th, 2023 from DEM, it's approving the project. Exhibit 5. Sorry, this is really long, I couldn't read it, I couldn't. And then.
Has that been reported? That doesn't need to be.
And then the storm management plan dated February 2023, received April 23. We exhibit 7. Six. Anybody have any more questions?
Cindy, what's gonna be the application process for the 16 units? Will there be anybody that can apply, can go in? Could my wife and I apply with a friend and move in, or with another couple and apply? What's that process going to be?
It's still not fully fleshed out, but we would be, if we do get a grant from Rhode Island Housing, we'll be bound by all of the Rhode Island Housing rules and regulations, of which there are many. So broad strokes, you'll have to qualify financially. Unlike East Earls Ball, which is a sliding scale rent based on your income, this is more affordable, attainable rather than low income. So you'll have to be within an income range that's designated by the state. Can't make too little, can't make too much. And that's
And that would only be based on the applicant itself?
right. So in other words, if you were the sole applicant and you qualified, and if we have enough applicants, there'll be a lottery, for qualified people. So if you qualified, I don't believe that there would be anything that would not allow you to have a roommate to take the second bedroom. I think in order to have 2 incomes qualify, you'd probably have to be married or filing jointly, I would think. So there will be income restrictions, but I don't believe you would be precluded from having a roommate if you were a single applicant.
Within the process, I noticed that you guys you met the minimum parking per unit, 2 cars per unit, that would be 4 cars per duplex, correct?
Mhm. Right.
Did you explore adding any other parking per unit to increase from 2 to 3?
Well, we're hoping, that one of the issues will be you have to have the correct number of cars. So people will not be able to have 4 vehicles per unit. In the event of, we all know, parties, guests, etc. Help me out on this, but we're figuring if there's temporary parking, there is a lot of area that we would not be creating gravel parking spaces, but if somebody's going to park on the grass, for a party or a weekend guest, it's done everywhere, but we're trying to maintain the correct number of cars.
So one unit could be 2 couples, which could technically be 4 cars.
Yes, but I believe we only have 2 cars per unit. So so
Right.
we're only providing 2.
You mentioned
Parking
Eddie,
spaces.
that you were asking for any variances, so you meet the town zoning as far as the minimum requirements for parking.
Yes. Well, kind of depends on the funding. So, if all the stars line up right, in theory, I would think the awards would be probably late winter, early spring. So if we were awarded, we probably would start right away on the groundwork. We are in the process of, we're going to put the project out to bid, and, thinking positively, so that we can kind of get people lined up. We are thinking of we are doing modular construction. So 6 to 12 months, by the time you award a bid, I'm sure it's going to take them 6 to 12 months to build the things. And then, of course, you have to hope that the season is right to actually get them here. But, with luck, late spring, early summer to start the groundwork.
You suggested that the next round of funding is coming out within.
Well, there's no definitive word on that yet from the state, but our consultant's best guess is that the advertisements will go out no later than mid-October.
And how long does it typically last?
I think they would anticipate probably by the end of 2023. So somewhere in December,
Okay.
we would have
Because
to,
assuming you got approval to this evening, you still
Correct.
wouldn't have approval for another month.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So
From us.
we're hoping that we're going to have all those approvals and ready to go, which gives us better points on our application. As a sidebar, we had a debriefing meeting with Rhode Island Housing after our previous rejection. And they were very, very gung-ho about the project. Very supportive. Basically, 2 things. One, we didn't have all our approvals in hand, and you get a lot more points on your application if you're shovel ready. We were not. And secondly, we do have a higher cost per square foot, which is harder for them to swallow. But that's the Block Island factor.
What kind of end finance are they in this environment do they end up giving for that, for these?
Well, again, we won't know until we find out what they're offering with this next round of funding. But the previous round of funding, essentially we qualified for a significant grant in around $4 million, a loan slightly less than, I think it was like $650,000. And then we had some other funding sources, grants that we already received a $250,000 Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank grant, which will help us on the groundwork. And we are very hopeful that there are 2 Block Island based organizations that are going to come through with some nice grant money. We're also actively engaged in trying to write some grant proposals for upgrades, to the Chris, that grant proposal is mostly for better infrastructure, the ZEOS grant, photovoltaic and better infrastructure, insulation, stuff like that.
You gotta be sworn in, Chris, if you're gonna testify. Sorry. Karen, you ready?
Ready? Could you raise your right hand? State your name for the record, please.
Christopher Warfel.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth during the course of this hearing?
I do.
Thank you.
And if you're Walker Island Housing Board member?
Lock Island Housing Board. Yes. This grant that Cindy is talking about, it's called ZEOS, ZEOS. And it's a collaboration between Rhode Island Housing, Rhode Island Energy, State Energy Office, and I think the Commerce Corporation. And it's the Commerce Corporation, Commerce Rhode Island. It's trying to increase the energy efficiency of the structures by funding better insulation, better windows, energy heat recovery units, promoting the use of electrical appliances, heating, cooking, cooling, and solar electric systems and electric vehicle charging stations if possible. So it's a pretty complicated grant. Our submittal was 176 pages. So it's, we won't know, actually, I don't know when their decision is, but I would, hopefully it's in a month, but that's a grant that we've been pursuing. And it ties in with the Energy Fund and a few other things. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Any
Tom,
questions?
can I tell
Yep.
Cindy, do you need a decision before October 25th?
I think that would be great. If October 25th worked, I think that would help us.
Any other questions for the applicant? This is a public hearing. If anybody in the audience has any questions or comments, now is the time. Okay. I will make a motion to close the public hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your time.
So everybody, I feel okay with this? It's
Right,
not-
no problem. No problem.
Yeah, okay.
I do have an issue, though.
You do?
Yes.
Okay,
I have an issue with the parking. I understand that they meet the minimum of 2. But I feel as though there should at least be 3. As we stated, there could be up to 4 people in a residence there, which could mean 4 cars at 1 unit. That area is very congested based on Salt Pond Settlement as
Overflow.
well as there's and Ball Bryan Park. All of that overflow currently goes to that shoulder and it's a safety hazard currently. And I'm afraid that if we add with that development there, with that many more people in there, it's gonna bring that many more cars and that overflow will come out onto the roadway. Even if we stipulated that the cars had to be parked on site, I feel as though that would create an enforcement issue for either the zoning official or for local PD. And the only other spot there currently is the shoulder, which is currently maximized with Salt Pond Settlement,
I believe.
not the Martin Housing, and the
So,
East Sierra's Ball plus Ball O'Brien Park.
I mean,
It meets the minimum. It meets the minimum, correct. But I feel as though in a decision, we should request that it should be at least 3 parking spots per unit.
Well, why not?
Taking it as a Any discussion? Could we have an-
So I think if it's
Don't have to enforce it.
Well, Robbie, I think if you put something in the decision that says they have to keep the cars, all parking must be on that lot, then
I think that's an enforcement
That would-
issue.
right.
That would
It's
be.
an enforcement.
and
How would you
that be
ever know?
hard. Is
where
there
the
any,
funds are
so, all
from?
right, so this is a
Hammer it.
protocol, wait, hold on, this is a protocol thing. We haven't voted on this, so the hearing's still open, correct?
No, you just,
We closed it. We closed
We
the
didn't
public
vote.
hearing.
you
We did
closed the
vote.
public hearing
We closed it,
We closed the hearing.
and you voted, Bob seconded.
yes,
But then we're in
No,
the
you have,
discussion.
you're just doing a
we
discussion,
discussed it,
just having a
Oh,
discussion.
But we
discussion,
can't
I
go
got
back
it.
to-
So
we
we
can't go back to
can't go
that.
back to them and tell them.
but I
I
might,
just
I
on
might,
the spot for
Right.
some-
Well, but you could either add language in the decision, I mean, it will become difficult for enforcement, but maybe whoever's writing it could speak with Karen about it, how to craft that language, or you could request that they add a couple more spaces.
I might add though that in looking at the plan, most of these driveways are not one car length. The two units down on the end appear to have
Quite a bit of.
tandem parking for like 3 cars apiece. They can't address that, but most
Which
of them
they
look
could
about.
change their footprint to allow for 4 parking. Or 3.
No, but he's saying
Okay.
they could park along the road, like the road
Okay.
that drive.
They could, like right here, for instance, you could add a little bit of parking to the side, okay, but these are long, that's more than one spot. That's more than one spot. These are probably, I can't tell from. Do we have anything with scale on it? Not with scale on it, with dimensions on it?
That's what you have.
Says when we're making these changes off of hypothetical scenarios, there's no expert, there's no one's coming here that, is it our buyer. They can, like, I know you think it's an issue, but before we kind of go against this, I need more meat to make sure it's a real issue. There's no expert, there's no way, there's none of that. We're just doing this on like a future concern that might.
We're just really having. a
But we know,
discussion. We're having a
but
discussion.
Robbie's, but this is the discussion, this is, but Robbie's also speaking from experience.
Right.
You know, we all know that there's the overflow from Salt Pond Settlement is all along that road. Right, but it's, but,
That's an enforcement issue.
right, but that,
We need to
right,
take care of current.
So-
I don't know if I'm gonna change, actually, I don't want to change. And punish them further.
We can't,
Nor,
we can't.
nor are we talking about changing the zone.
We're
yeah,
not changing the zoning code, but they're for zoning, they're two.
We were look-
per unit, right?
My discussion was about adding something into an approval within the decision.
Okay, but then you shouldn't make them go up two cars. per
More
unit.
restrictive than what the ordinance said, is what you're saying.
well, one of the problems there is that, one of the problems is, Robbie, you brought it up before. While the hearing was going on, it should have been delved in more completely, because you could have got feedback from them as to whether they attempted to have more parking.
I
whether
asked
they
that
could have, I know whether they could
and
have.
but
more
Cindy
parking.
did address, she talked about that there's gonna be area to park, grassy areas to
On
park,
party, not on a regular basis.
well,
And then that's why I asked about the allocation as
Right.
well, because then we said, well, it could be, it's based on 2 people per room, which could be 4 people, which could be 4 vehicles.
Yeah, but that's like, it's all it could be, hypothetically.
but you always have,
Everything is
but no, but I think you have to, I agree with Robbie in that sense, is that you kind of always have to assume the worst case scenario, because.
That's why we based our decision.
Yeah. No, but no, that's not fair, that's not true. No, it's not true, because you have to assume that there's gonna be 4 cars, I mean. You come, there are 4 people in my house, there's like 15 cars in my driveway the whole time. You know? I mean, they're meeting the standard of the zoning code, I agree with you, I agree where you're coming from, but I also agree with what Robbie is saying, so. I think that. We just find a way to address it in the decision,
I don't believe you can hold them to a higher standard.
then what does, yeah,
Than what
I agree.
the
Yeah.
rules require.
Right.
That's different from saying you need a mechanism to enforce how many people are gonna be there, or we would suggest that you add some overflow. parking
gas parking, I mean, you know.
Yeah.
That's,
There is actually room in this plan for guest parking right along
Yeah.
here. There's an area right here. And as I did say, these tandem parking spots right here are more than 2 cars apiece. There's like 4 cars, might even be more. That's a long,
It's pretty long.
that's a long.
It's longer than this.
Yeah.
Two.
But you did have right here an 8x18 or 9x18 gravel park spot. There's like probably 4 there. Okay.
I was just looking it up to see if there was any language that you could put in there, but I can't find anything.
I think we could, in our decision, we could encourage them to add additional parking.
Well, we could put in our decision that all parking must be on site.
Right, well, typically you
Yeah.
see all of the
We
covenants.
could do that.
Yeah.
Typically, you see all of the covenants and restrictions and every single bit of language that's going to get recorded with, because usually you see a subdivision from like the housing board or
Sure.
through 405. So because this isn't a subdivision, you're not really there. You're not reviewing any of those legal documents that they could have it in their restrictions for the homeowners or the.
I think we might want to be careful in messing up the decision in terms of them getting their financing. If there's any loose ends in the decision,
Yeah. That's true.
it may cause an impediment to them obtaining the financing. So I think Robbie's suggesting that we have all parking on site. We put that in the decision.
That's, yeah, that kind of.
That would work.
Sure,
Okay.
I mean, they could potentially put language in their leases that says,
Yeah.
Right.
you're signing this with the understanding that you're not going to have guests park over there. You're only gonna park here.
And
But
maybe,
that'll be up to them.
and maybe it's been heard as we're sitting here
Right.
that this, you could try to find some parking. As it's there, it is
So-
there on.
Oh, you have the
Some-
space.
Somebody needs to write it.
Okay, who's gonna write this?
Steven?
I don't know, I don't
You
know.
still have-
I
still have the only other.
am not, I potentially might have a conflict on the October meeting that has just come up. For me, so
Well, you're gonna need four of you to render
Take it.
decisions,
I
so.
really, honestly,
but I would be happy to write the decision and.
Do you wanna write it? Susan, Robbie,
Do
Bob?
I want to or will?
Do I want to? No. I would.
I will.
I think Susan said.
I
Or
just-
if Catherine would like to write it, I'll read her notes.
Well,
Oh,
Yeah,
you
Yeah.
might have an issue if you don't have a quorum, but you.
I can do that.
You'll be
Okay.
here, you don't have. All right, so as soon as you know, can you let me know? And then same for you, Kate, so.
Yeah,
We
I'm-
only need four.
I mean, we might have a quorum for the.
but then if we
We
don't,
only
We
need
could have a
four.
special
we
meeting.
could have a special meeting. I'm
Right,
happy to
that's
write it.
fine.
I'm happy to write it. And if we need to have a special meeting, we just
Yeah,
have
we'll
to
do
do it.
Okay,
Are we allowed to?
so Kate, you're gonna write it?
I'll write it, sure. Do we, are we allowed to go? We're not allowed to do Zoom?
No, board members are not, not.
It's
Well, I mean,
crazy.
see how difficult this is just to have
Yeah.
Karen on.
No, it's true. It is true. And it was.
No. Come on, no.
That was a drag. I'm just
saying.
Well, I'm thinking for a for a special meeting, like
You
a
can
quick meeting to
accommodate
do a
us.
decision. But yeah, I just,
Well, if we don't have, you only need 4 members, you don't need 5 members for a quorum any
Right.
longer. So if you have,
right,
we
okay.
have 4,
All right,
then
I'll be happy to
keep
write
it on
it.
the 25th, and if not, then I'll pick a date.
So what's up with our decision? With our, I mean, not this.
So you only have,
Decided on this, but what if the decision? we gotta vote on?
Kenny?
Talked today and that we're waiting for a planning board decision. Right, Jen? So we should wait for that to go.
you talked about that last month, whether or not you wanted to see language from the planning board
Yes.
prior to rendering your decision, even though they're both
Yes.
binding decisions, they're not advisory to you.
Sorry, what, Ken?
But yeah, Bob Kennedy, yeah, we were,
I'm accused.
So just wait to get a planning board decision.
they will, planning will render a decision on October 11th.
Which will be in time for the 25th meeting.
Yes.
All right. Good for me.
All right.
Motion to adjourn. Oh,
Well then,
all right.
you just made a motion to adjourn. I'll second that.
All righty.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.